Hey everybody, it's Rose from Rebel Leader Academy. So, last time I was here, which was a little while ago, I talked to you guys about the idea of not negotiating with your loser. So, that's that aspect inside of you that seems to sabotage your goals. You go and you do all of this work and all this effort and thinking about your life, the things that you actually want to achieve, and everything like that. And then all of a sudden you go to do it, and it's the day you have to go to the gym or go to that job interview, whatever the case may be. And all of a sudden you just don't feel like it. Like there's all of this resistance that bubbles up. And that's what we were talking about as the loser version of you. Because if you continue to follow that version of you instead of the version that actually wants to achieve the goals that you set out for yourself, well, that's where you end up being in your life, feeling like a loser. And there's a little bit more to it in the brain of what's going on. But before I go into that, I want to talk a little bit about this idea of sabotage. So what is sabotage? It's any time that you set something for yourself in motion that would equal success and anything comes up, anything that is resistant. Usually it's an emotion. Why is it an emotion? Because it tends to come from a part of our brain called the limbic system. That's all about keeping us safe. Your system wants to keep you safe and doing the same routine things that you're used to and feels comfortable. So when all of these people talk about, getting out of your comfort zone, what they're really saying is learning to ignore that part of your brain that is trying to keep you in sameness. Of course, there's another part of your brain, which is our prefrontal cortex, that's all responsible for consequential thinking and growth and achievement and taking risks. So this sets up kind of like a split personality in yourself. And I talk to my clients a lot about this because if you can't find a way to understand and reconcile these two parts of yourselves, you will never actually attain those goals that you set out for yourself. Even with all of the goodwill, all of the hopes and dreams and good intentions, you'll come up against that wall. So that part of your brain that wants to keep you safe has two objectives and only two objectives. One is it's either going to avoid pain. So it's going to try to make you act in a way that isn't necessarily in your best interest, but it will avoid you whatever pain it's anticipating. Or it's seeking pleasure. Those are the only two options. You're either going toward pleasure or running away from pain. And if you think about your own life and the decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis, you can probably start seeing that pattern. Did you get that chocolate bar because you were going towards a goal of eating more chocolate, or because you were rewarding yourself in some way, or because it's just delicious and that's what you wanted, right? You're seeking out that pleasure. In the same way, if you're avoiding a job interview, what are you avoiding really? You're avoiding the pain that could be associated with rejection, the nervousness, the are they going to like me? Am I good enough? All of the shit that comes up in our psyche from that part of our brain, again, designed to keep us safe. So you've got this dichotomy where our behavior is hallmarked by either pleasure or pain. And sometimes the decisions in our lives comes down to which is the worst pain. And then it's kind of like the what's the best of two bad choices. And we often have to make this, especially if we don't have a really solid set of core values and a mission and things like that. It's often like, all right, well, I hate both of these jobs, or I, hate both of these potential mates, let's say, in my life. Well, not hate, but you know what I mean. And which is the less of two evils. So our brain, that part of our brain is going to actually set us up to make those kinds of decisions as well. So in terms of goal achievement and success, this is the key that most things that talk about goal setting and achievement don't actually address, which is that the lack of pleasure when you're going for a goal will actually set you up to fail. So if you are working really hard and you are able to quiet that loser voice over and over and over again, what actually ends up happening is that's what leads to burnout. So we end up feeling like, yeah, we're working and we're ignoring that loser voice and we're going for it and we're doing all these great things for ourselves and feeling hollow and empty and angry and depressed until eventually all of those negative emotions will collapse in on us. And we end up with what's called burnout, where that's it. We just don't want to do anything at all. So, sorry, I think there was a glitch there. So we end up with a whole thing where we just don't want to do anything at all. And that's really the hallmark of burnout. So to avoid that, we kind of have to not give in to our loser, but make room for pleasure. And that's the key that's not often talked about. So if we are striving so hard, like many of us are, and we don't check in and don't make room for that part of our brain that says, we need some fun, we need some pleasure, we need some chocolate, we need some sex, whatever the case is that your body is naturally, and that part of your mind is naturally trying to get you to go after that pleasure sensation, if we ignore it for long enough, that also will sabotage our goals, and that also will sabotage our success. So it's this idea of being able to consciously balance these needs inside of ourselves. So it's not always consistently go, 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 ignore the loser, stay to your schedule. No, there has to be some kind of flexibility in play. And what's interesting is that what's considered pain that we're running away from or pleasure that we're working towards is completely subjective, and it's unique to us. So what is the pleasure sensations and emotions that I am seeking is probably very different from what you're seeking. And the same way, we all have different pain triggers, particularly emotional pain triggers. You know, for some of us, it's that fear of rejection. For some of us, it's that feeling of I'm not good enough. Most of us, it's all of the above. But because of our life circumstances and things we've experienced, you could have very specific pain triggers that come from trauma or different cultural belief systems. So figuring out what those are specifically to you is incredibly important when it comes to looking at your overall ability to achieve the success that you are seeking, or the personal growth or the business development, whatever it is that success looks like to you. So once you have a clear understanding of what your pain triggers are and your pleasure triggers, those very unique emotions or experiences that you are actually working towards that would help to balance you out when you are going for those goals. Those are the things, that would actually help you avoid that burnout sensation. You have to start including those in your overall schedule. You have to really start giving them the weight that they deserve, because if you don't, then you will risk burning out, and you'll be doing it at the polar opposite end of what I was talking about giving into the loser. So two ways basically of failing in your goal-oriented behavior, in your striving for success. One is giving into your loser too much and just work, and being great at that. Cool. That, of course, leading to burnout, because you're not giving yourself that space to actually feel the pleasure that same part of your brain is seeking. So I hope this gave you some things to think about. And in your own life, what I'd love for you to do is start considering for you, what are those pain triggers and what are those pleasure triggers? So when you are working, what are you seeking out? For some people, it's the end of the week, whatever they, have a beer, or it's their sex night, or, they want to, if you're really on the edge of burnout, then you're probably more like, I just need to escape and I need to go on a vacation for a month. Those are the kind of things that are going to start popping up in your head. So if you could start tracking those and really thinking about them, it will be a huge step forward for you to be in a position to actually achieve whatever goals you set out. So pleasure is actually that missing ingredient and that key that often gets overlooked in all of our traditional kind of teachings around in books and the internet around what it takes to achieve success and your goals. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.